we've been congratulating everyone on how great we're doing. But we're also talking a lot about, everyone else's topics. So I'm adding things about what they're talking about and they're talking about.
I guess my question is, what have we missed tonight? And anyone, feel free to jump in here. JB, come in close. I don't feel like you're too far away.
So I know one of the big things we're talking about is storms, but I think we also haven't really mentioned fire safety. So the disaster that we have most often is single-family fires in our region, and they kill the most people and cause the most property damage, which is a really big deal. We never want to lose a life, so that's also something we can talk about. It's really
and that reminds me then too maybe of a different demographic age-wise too. Just down here on Lindell, 2 years ago maybe, we had an apartment that burned and displaced a lot of college students that they may have grabbed their laptops, but if they didn't grab their ATM card, they didn't have anything.
Right.
Is that something you guys deal with too, in terms of are certain populations fragile that you might not think are?
Absolutely. We look at all hazards. We don't just focus on weather. We look at man-made events. We look at natural events, technological events. But we also make sure that it's not just the individual, but it's those that are at sporting events. How are they going to take care of their patrons that are at those events? Businesses, how are you going to take care of yourself at a business? But as we were talking about, severe weather is one part of many things that we have to worry about here in the St. Louis area. We've got many different hazards: earthquakes, flooding, fires, ice storms, weather related. So we have to be prepared for all those different events and understand that those can happen anytime throughout the year. It's not just a spring event. It's not just a summer event. We've had tornadoes on New Year's Eve.
Yes, we have.
The great thing is being prepared for one thing makes you prepared for almost everything else. It's just a small tweak, so it doesn't have to feel like a ton of extra work.
Exactly.
To Gary's point, you really don't have to feel like you have to make a distinct kit and plan for every single thing. It's just tweaking what you do a little bit.
Yeah, Professor, we were talking about that wind that was coming towards Busch Stadium in 2006. I don't know, do you all remember that? It was on the security video that you could see the wind coming through there. Were you grimacing when you saw that? And did we have changed anything? I'm not picking on the Cardinals, but just in general with public gatherings. Has anything changed from that?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a lot that has changed since that event. The Cardinals have done a remarkable job of making their stadium storm ready. They've got designated severe thunderstorm shelter areas, tornado shelters, and they've tied a lot of the appliances down so they don't get blown around during those events. Along with the city, we learned a lot of valuable lessons dealing with a heat emergency and then having an extensive power outage. How do we respond to those? We learn from every disaster, but we also learn from disasters around the country. We don't wait for them just to happen here. And one of the things I wanted to circle back on was the kits. We also have to make sure that we personalize those kits, don't just buy it off the shelf, but also update them. Every time that you change your clock for daylight savings time, change the battery in your smoke detector, update the emergency response kit as well.
Absolutely. Guilty. We're both guilty. It's our creative minds.
And that goes back to on FEMA's website, not that I'm touting FEMA's website, but it is a great website. It's got a lot of good things on ready.gov. It talks about that, and some of the news, they've been putting advertisements out there talking about trying to get the kids involved, and that's a lot of it. And their family disaster preparedness plan. It's a great thing, and I know when I heard that, I looked at my kids and said, kids, we need to talk. So you bring everybody in, and it's a good involvement.
I'm going to go back to Gary and the baseball stadium. One of the biggest problems that the Cardinals have, and I've been working with the Cardinals on a lightning mapping array to protect the stadium against lightning. The question becomes, how do you get people to actually respond? That you have the guy who's been told that there's a lightning strike, so he takes his aluminum umbrella and holds it up further in the air. How do you get that kind of person to get undercover and listen and pay attention? An awful lot of people don't pay attention to those kinds of warnings. And Gary and I were talking about the fact that with the tornado sirens going off, a lot of people simply ignore them now. Some of the older people, if you will, the all clear signal that went on. A lot of that technology is old and people are moving on to newer technology, but nonetheless, that's still an invaluable piece of equipment that keeps people aware.
I don't think we've commented yet on the question of how much preparedness should you have. I think that some agencies say that you should be prepared for 72 hours before any responder gets to you so that you can be taken care of. Some of us believe you better think about a week because it can be a long time. And so when we talk about these preparedness kits, they need to be robust, and as I said earlier, they need to be personalized to the individual and the individual circumstances.
Yeah, I found that just being down there was definitely an attitude of we know what we're doing. Kind of like almost like the mentality of the hurricane watch party, where people ride those out. Different storms, though.
Yeah, research is showing that just like in your situation, when someone tells you, when you have a reinforcement in addition to the sirens, when your husband tells you or your friend calls you and says, this is serious, you should take action, people will take action more promptly. So I think what that means is we all have to take care of each other, right?
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's worked on me, and I've seen it work on my friends when I've called them.
Yep.
You know, and there's also so many different media outlets out there to get warnings, to get information. You know, we try to educate people. When you get up in the morning, when you're getting dressed, getting ready to go to work, find out what the weather's going to do. Do you need to bring an umbrella? Or are you going to have to worry about tornadoes? You know, make sure that you're prepared, not just surprised when that alarm goes off.
I can recommend a fantastic television station with an excellent weather team if anyone wants to tune in. I know even people at the Post watch Channel 5 for their weather, so. And we're on the web now, by the way, so anything else you guys want to say that we haven't touched on? Yeah.
Definitely. As far as making sure that there's information and understanding out in the community, the program that I'm in definitely takes advantage of any types of outreach opportunities, whether it be health fairs. A lot of times I've been invited to come to speak at different functions in order to get more information out about the extreme weather events that we experience, as well as reaching out to children. You know, starting young with the understanding of what types of impacts that we can experience and what they can do to play a part in building a more resilient community as well, too. So I think that those are definitely two key components, getting that information out there.
And if I could add something to that as well, you know, we're talking about preparedness before the storm hits.
Absolutely.
People have to understand what's going to happen after the storm. They may not have drinking water. They may not have sewage. They may not have food for a period of time, as we've talked about, but how do you rebuild your life? Learn from those events that have happened to other people and find out what emotions did they go through? How did they deal with that? How do we get back to some form of normalcy?
Dale, final thought.
Oh, a final thought. Just,
What's on your mind? It doesn't. Don't feel pressure.
oh, no pressure at all from this crowd. But no, it is. We think in emergency management, we think local. Every disaster starts local and ends local. And preparedness has to be that same way, is that we have to start with an individual, move to the family, move to the neighborhood. Make sure you know who your neighbor is. Make sure that they have what they need in case of an emergency. And then you go up to the school that's in your neighborhood, then the next building, and then it gets into a bigger community. The community goes into a region, and then it comes back to you. Okay, let's start it out all over again with the next round. And I think that's where we really have to be, just changing our mental focus to be on the front end of that.
I had one last thought. So I'm thinking, I can see how my sister and brother-in-law have changed with the addition to their family with their first son. Maybe, is the single person harder to reach in terms of?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Caregivers, no matter who you're caring for, have a sense of they need to protect someone and take care of someone. So they're like the target audience, but they're most of the population, right? So that's great. And so we kind of have that middle ground where we have these college and high school kids who are invincible, right? And we've got to teach them differently too. So we're looking at mobile apps and things that make it more fun for them so that they'll have the knowledge still, even if they don't always want to take it.
I'll kick in here now.
Yeah.
Boy Scouts of America, who spend an awful lot of time with the concept of be prepared. If you want to reach young people, then have the Boy Scouts, who have a whole lot of very young people who have been taught how to be prepared. And my own son's was a scout, and he has his own bug-out bag. Imagine that. We didn't have to teach him that.
I'm gonna have to Google bug out bag, so that shows you my level, I guess. But
It's the emergency bag that Gary and the others.
if you need
have
to if you need to bug out.
If you need to bug out, you have something to take care of yourself. Ours is set up for 72 hours.